grew up without a father. I guess my dad was sleeping with 2 women. Like, my dad didn't really want me. I lost my virginity at 14. I just wanted attention. If I give my body, then I'll get some attention.
But you can't fix what you can't see. It's the soul that needs a surgery.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Hope you guys are doing well. Welcome back to another episode of Soul Surgery. If you do not know, I am in my 2nd season of Soul Surgery. If you have not checked out my previous videos on sex and sexuality, please go back and check it out. In this video, I'm going to be talking about daddy issues, looking for love and acceptance. So what is daddy issues? So I believe that daddy issues is the emotional, most of the time subconscious longing for that love, affection and acceptance from a father who was either physically or emotionally absent. So let's just be clear, just because your father was physically present, like he was in the house, he came to all of your birthdays, does not mean that you may not suffer from daddy issues. Your father may have been condescending, he may have not talked to you, may have given you the silent treatment, may have not been able to relate to you, may have been very domineering, abusive, unkind, unloving, unapproachable. You know, all these kind of things cause us to have these deep wounds called daddy issues. And really the role of a father is to nurture and is to protect and it is to provide for their child. That is really what the definition of a father is. And we all know those people who say that, oh, I'm a daddy's girl, or we all know the term daddy's girl. And really and truly, like, a dad, a father is the first man that you will ever love, is the first man that teaches you how to love and how to receive love. You know, so fathers are a very critical part of a child's development, like, for sure. Another role of a father is that he also affirmed his daughter. He's the first person to tell his daughter that she's beautiful. He's the first person to tell his daughter that she's lovable, that she is worth it, that she's valuable, that she's precious. He tells her who she is so that she doesn't have to go and search out in the world, who am I, who am I? My father has already told me this. I know I'm beautiful. I know I'm competent. I know I'm confident. And he also leads by example. So if your dad always opens the door for you, let's say you go on a date with some guy, you're standing at the door and you're like, yeah, you're gonna get the door or not, like, you, and he doesn't open the door, you're just a bit like, bah, I don't need that kind of energy in my life. You know, you're able to just like reject it because you have some form of standard, that your father is your standard. So you'll compare, sometimes good or bad, you'll compare guys to your father. Does this guy treat me as good as my father? Does this guy provide for me as good as my father? And that's why I found that a lot of weak and manipulative men prey on women who don't have fathers in their life, because they know most of the time they don't have their own standards. They don't know, they don't have anyone to compare this treatment to. So they kind of accept whatever is given and they don't know what to expect from a man. Not to mention that they don't actually have to be accountable to anybody. And I don't know, but have you ever been on a date or like a first date and a guy asks you about your father and he's just like, why are you asking? And I found like some guys do it because they're trying to kind of size up and kind of see how far they can push your boundaries because you have no protection. Like, I always believe that a father is a protector. He governs you, and sometimes, and most of the time when you don't have that in your life, you're kind of open to anything. You're open to anything and anyone. You're left unprotected, open. And so I'm going to speak about a little bit of my story, and I have to be very careful in how I choose to tell my story. I'm used to being very vulnerable on YouTube, and I really love the fact that I can be transparent to you guys, but also I have to be aware that when I'm telling my story, it also involves people that don't have this opportunity to share their side of the story as well. So I have to be really careful that I'm protecting people in telling my true story. At the same time, it is my truth and I have to be authentic. Okay, so I am one of 4 siblings. My mother had my eldest sister from a previous relationship, but the 3 of us all have the same father. We kind of grew up in an environment that wasn't normal at all. My dad was married and we were all living in the same house with his wife, my mum, his children, and obviously my mum as the mistress. The 3 of us all are kind of the same age as his wife's children. So we kind of grew up in an environment that wasn't normal at all. Like, it was kind of like sister wives. I guess my dad was sleeping with 2 women. And yeah, he wasn't the greatest of men. He was abusive and a lot was going on. So the environment in which I was born into wasn't the greatest. And as I was researching for this video, I was speaking to my mum, and I kind of asked her, like, how was I conceived? Like, was I wanted? Because a lot of the time, how you were conceived and the environment in which you grew up in plays a lot in your temperament and how you are as a person. And so I asked her a question just a few days ago, and I asked her, like, how was I conceived? Like, was I wanted? And she was like, well, your dad didn't really want, because I'm the youngest, I'm the last child. And she was like, yeah, your dad didn't really want another child because he was kind of embarrassed, because obviously his wife is in the house with her kids. And I think my half-sister was born around the same time as I was. I was surprised. It wasn't planned. And so, like, my dad didn't really want me. Like, he wanted to kind of, like, get rid of me before I was conceived. But my mum, by the grace of God, was just like, no, never, ever, ever aborting any of my children. So my mum said that they would go backwards and forwards, get rid of it. Mum's like, no, get rid of it. Mum's like, no. And then here I am. By the grace of God, I am here and I am alive and I am healthy. So in that environment, there was a lot of rejection. So I wasn't really wanted as a child. My dad had obviously his kids, my mum had her kids, and we were all kind of sharing the same environment. And I asked her sometimes, did you feel like he treated his wife's children better than your children? And he said, yeah, sometimes I felt like he did when he was actually home. He was he was a businessman. He had like a Bentley, but he was living in the council estate. So I know that I get my business acumen from him, which is cool, I guess. Back to the story. So a lot had gone on, and when I was around about 3 years old, my mum decided to leave him. She basically ran away from him. And so I grew up without a father. I don't remember anything about him. I was too young to remember. I could actually walk past him in the street and not know who my dad is. That is kind of weird, but I think when you've grown up only knowing one parent, as in your mum, it doesn't feel like you're lacking anything. It doesn't feel like you lack anything, you know, but you do, you really do. And I feel like since I've kind of been like becoming a lot more self-aware and aware of myself, you know, like in your soul, like sometimes in your soul, you just feel like something is missing. And when I can trace back to when I was like younger, I realize now that I was searching for a love that I didn't receive in my home from men. I lost my virginity at 14. I just wanted attention. Like, I just wanted someone to be there for me. I was just like, just need to find a guy to like me and to love me, and let's do it, you know, so I can go back to school and be like, yeah, I'm not a virgin no more. Like, so stupid. So yeah, what I know now that I didn't know back then was that I was just searching for some attention. And God bless my mum. My mum did the best that she can. My mum is the most amazing woman, kindest, sweetest, loveliest, wise woman out there. So I have to give props to my mum for doing a good job. Even in the hardest of times, she's gone through so much, but she's a fighter and we got out. But my mum was preoccupied. My brother had a disability. He had Down syndrome and he had a hole in his heart. So my mum was in and out of the doctors with my brother when I was younger. So I feel like all the attention was on my brother. So even though my mum was present and my mum was loving, she was caring and she would do things for us, I never really felt that connection because she was so preoccupied with my brother and also her older daughter and also my other sister. So I was just the last one that was kind of felt forgotten about. So I was just like, you know what, y'all not giving me attention here, let me get out, let me go into the world, and let's go and try and find some kind of form of attention, you know. And so I was constantly like searching for affection and safety and security and all these things that a father is supposed to give you, and I was looking for that. And so I would find myself in relationships with guys who like, yeah, I was just searching for something to stick. I was searching for someone to like gel with and stick with and connect with, and it just wasn't happening because I was out there searching for love in the form of sex, because I felt like if I give my body, then I will get some attention. If I give my body, then in that moment I will feel loved. And I really did. I really felt that. I felt like it was love. Looking back now, I know it was lust, because after it's done, they're like, yeah, if it was nowadays, it'd be like, yeah,
Babe, your Uber's outside.
What do you mean my Uber's outside? I'm saying here, babe, you and me, we're girlfriend and boyfriend. What do you mean my Uber's outside? No, I'm gonna lay here in your arms like the girls on Instagram.
I'm gonna lay here in your arms and we're gonna snuggle. It didn't happen like that, like, because lust is so lust is so take that once it's finished with you, it just dashes you away. And so I always felt rejected after an encounter with a guy. So in order to feed that rejection, I would go and search for it in someone else, and then someone else, and then someone else, and then someone else, and then someone else, you know. And even though I didn't want to be promiscuous, I was searching for a love that I wasn't getting, and I still wasn't getting, even though I was giving myself away. That was like a cycle. I mean, when I look back, there were some guys that I met that would speak to me on a deeper level. People always ask me, where did you get Breeny, the name Breeny, from? My full name is Debrina, if you guys didn't know. I use Breeny as like a nickname. But one of the guys that I was dating, he was like the loveliest guy. And he I feel like he saw something in me, and he wasn't just using me for my body. And anyway, so I just shortened my name to Brina or Bree. And he was like, oh, why don't you shorten your name to Breeny? And I was like, oh, you smart, I like that. And I was like, okay, cool, I'll take it. Anyway, back to the story. Yeah, so I was kind of searching for that in guys, and I never found it, never. Not one. Yeah, that was kind of my story. And like I said, I didn't want to go out and be sleeping with guys, but there was this thing, longing, and like I said, in that moment I felt loved. In that moment I felt accepted, and that's what sex does for you. It kind of connects you with someone. But if you don't have a relationship that is built on something stronger than lustful desires, then it's always gonna crumble and break. Like, there's nothing worse than a one-night stand. You just feel disgusting. You feel like, am I not worth something, you know? And because I'm like funny and I like to see the humor in everything, I'll give you a funny story. Okay, so I was seeing this guy who was actually one of my friend's exes. Messy. I was about 15 at this time, by the way, and I remember going to his house and we messed around or whatever, and then like I used to sneak into his house. I used to sneak into his house at night. I used to sneak into this guy's house at night time, and then he would put me back up the bus stop. Anyway, so yeah, this one on Valentine's Day, oh my god, one Valentine's Day, I spent the night with him. In the morning we went to the shop to buy like a Valentine's card and a present, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna see you later, he's gonna give me the present and the card, and then he didn't. So I'm thinking, okay, what happened to the card and the present? He obviously gave the card to somebody else that was obviously more worthy. But like things like that just really started to drive a wedge in me. Like, I was already felt rejected as a child, and I was searching for acceptance. But as I was searching for acceptance, I was getting more rejection and rejection and rejection and rejection and rejection, and it just became a cycle, and I got tired of it. And that's when I share in my testimony, at 16 I gave my life to Christ, and for the first time I felt accepted. For the first time I felt genuinely loved. And honestly, I don't cry, like I don't cry much, but the times when I cry is when I actually think about the Father's love and how much he loves me and how much he's seen me from the very beginning, and how much he's watched over my life and how much he's loved me and protected me and guided me. Even though I didn't have a physical father, I've always had a heavenly Father. Even though I didn't know him, he knew me, and that just makes me so happy. And when I think about it, I don't think about it enough, but when I do think about it, that's why whenever I talk about God, I'm always smiling, because he's just done so much for me. Even if you don't have a father, whether he's deceased or he's not in your life, or you've never met him, or you was a one-night stand baby, or you was a rape baby, just know that God is a father to the fatherless. And I'm actually getting like drunk as I'm saying this. Like, God is a father to the fatherless, drunk in love, by the way. Even though you may not have had a physical father, God has always been your father, and the only reason that you have been able to make it right now is because you've had a Father in heaven that's looked over you and protected you. And there's a scripture in the Bible that says that God rejoices over us with singing, and it just reminds me of a baby just in the arms of a father, and he's singing over that baby, and he's singing blessings, and he's loving on that baby, and it just makes me so happy. That scripture is like one of my favorite scriptures. Yeah, it just makes me happy. And it's been a hard journey, because obviously when you haven't felt the love of a father, a physical father, it's so hard to connect with an invisible God, because you kind of start attributing things that your father was to God. Like sometimes I feel abandoned by God, but then I have to remember the scripture that says that God will never leave me nor forsake me. And it's just like knowing and that knowing, that knowing, that knowing. It's not one-off, it's a constant knowing. Knowing that you are loved and you're accepted. And if you're not a believer, knowing that you are here on purpose. And one thing that I thank my absent father for is his DNA. And I thank him for the life that he's given to me, because obviously my mum got the Virgin Mary. She couldn't have given me life on her own. Both their chromosomes came together and made me who I am. So I thank my dad, whoever he is out there, for giving me life and for giving me an opportunity to live the life that I'm living now. Yeah. Oh yeah, I have to talk about like rejection. And like I spoke about before, when you're rejected in your mother's womb, it manifests outwardly in your life, all throughout your life. And when I was growing up, I was such a quiet child. I was so quiet. I felt like my voice had no power. I felt like nobody was listening to me. I felt like no one cared. And that was one of the reasons why I was seeking it in the attention of men. And obviously now that I'm not seeking it in the attention of men, I still feel it bubbling up every so often. So like with friends, like sometimes I may feel rejected, but in order for me not to feel rejected, I will reject before I'm rejected. And that is like a common thing that people do who have felt or been rejected. They reject before they're rejected, so that like, you're not gonna hurt me, I'm gonna hurt you before you hurt me, so that you can't hurt me. But in protecting yourself, you're actually hurting yourself. And so when you feel like people are not there for you, it's because you haven't allowed people to be there for you, and you haven't reached out because you fear being rejected. It's such a cycle, it's a vicious cycle. And I feel like so many people in this world are acting out of their rejection. This is gonna sound so bad, but I have a special grace for what the world calls a hoe, because I understand some girls just want to sleep around. Okay, I'm not talking about them, but there's some girls that are actually actively searching for a father figure in these men, and it's just not gonna happen. You can't find your daddy in a man. You can find attributes, yeah. I'm sure you guys have heard the saying where it says that women marry their fathers. So if their fathers were absent or their fathers were violent, they may get with a man that was violent, because it's like the norm and that's what they know, you know. So it's so important for me as well that when I'm dating, that I'm not just getting involved with a man because I like him or I like the looks of him. No, what attributes do you have? How are you with children? How do you interact with your own siblings? How are you around people? What kind of attributes do you have? If you're emotionally available to me, I'm not going to birth you a daughter so you can be emotionally unavailable to her. The person that I marry, I'm actually giving my child this person as a father. I'm not selfish. I don't think about myself. I'm thinking about the future. I'm thinking about my future children. I'm thinking about how that person that I love or is so great or whatever, how will they be as a father? I'm determined to break the cycle. I want a guy that is gonna marry me and is gonna stay, gonna raise up children. And obviously nobody's perfect. You can see when you're dating someone if they're gonna be a good father or not. We ain't got time for that. We ain't got time to be recreating our parents' mistakes. We are the generation that is going to do better by our children. And so I kind of want to end this video on how to kind of move forward from daddy issues. And I think first things first is identifying that you do have daddy issues. There's certain reasons why you act in the way that you act because of the wounds that your dad gave you, whether consciously or unconsciously. Our dads are first example of a man. If your dad was a cheat, if your dad was a drunkard, if your dad was an alcoholic, if your dad was abusive, physically, mentally, sexually abusive to you, that's what you're going to expect from a man. Or you're going to assume that the person that you're with now is the same as your dad, and you're going to reject that person without even giving them a chance to prove themselves. So after you've identified it within yourself, you want to practice forgiveness. And forgiveness sometimes is thrown around like an easy thing to do, and it's completely not. And I was listening to a sermon by Dr. Matthew Stevenson, and he basically said that sometimes it's hard to forgive because once you've forgiven that person, they may do it again. But he said to forgive the role, forgive the father role that the person could not play. And it's also really good to note that if that is how your father treated you, just imagine how their father treated them. Because like I said at the beginning of the video, we lead by example. So if they didn't have a positive example, they can't treat you better than they've been treated. And sometimes we are prone to recreate our parents' mistakes. And so we have to kind of extend a special grace to our parents, whether your mother or your father who abandoned you or treated you badly or was really mean or hateful towards you. We have to learn to be able to forgive that person, because if they knew better, then they would have done better. But they've given you what they've been given. And I think when you come to that realization, you have a lot more grace for your parents, because it's not easy. I mean, it's not easy raising children. It's not easy being a parent. I think our generation have risen up and woken up to the fact that we are not going to be how our parents were to our children. And I think that's awesome. But while your parents, if they are still living and you still have a chance, talk to them. And I found it very helpful talking to my mother about things of the past. It's an awkward conversation, but if you're not willing to confront it, you're kind of bound to kind of stay in the same. Yeah, I'm not confrontational. I don't like confrontation, but have a moment where I'm with my mum and I'll just be like, yeah, so I have a question for you. When I was younger, blah 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 blah. And sometimes you may have to have them hard conversations with the dad and just be like, when I was younger, I felt really rejected by you. I felt really insulted. I felt like you wasn't there for me. I felt like when I spoke to you, you didn't respect what I said. I feel like you looked down on me. I feel like you made me feel small. You have to kind of have these hard conversations. And I know it's not easy, especially if you have really cultured parents who basically say that you can't speak to them like that. I mean, it's not going to be the same for everybody, but if you can, and if you pray about it and you find a way and find the time to talk to your parents humbly, you have to come to them humbly, because like I said, they did the best that they can with the information that they had. If you try to tell them, oh dad, you wasn't this or that, automatically their back's going to be up against the wall, because they're going to feel like you're judging them or you're criticizing them. But you kind of have to come to them on a humble tip and be like, this is my story, this is my truth, and this is how I want to share with you. So I would advise anybody that is going through daddy issues, if your dad is still around, to speak to them. If your dad is dead or your dad isn't in your life, you don't know who he is, learn to forgive that role and know that you're good. Like, you're good. You made it. Like, mama, I made it. Like, you made it without that person. And that's not to say, oh, look at me, I made it without you, I didn't need you. But just to be thankful for God, because the Bible says that when your mother and your father forsake you, I will take you in. So mums and dads are great, but ultimately when they are gone, you're still going to have a father. You're still going to be looked after, because God is eternal and God was there before you and he'll be there after you. He's the only constant person in this earth, so you can really trust and you can really rely on him, that he will never fail you. And just kind of try and cultivate that relationship with the Father, because it's amazing and it really does heal and make your heart a lot more whole once you realize how much God loves you. Like, you're not searching for it in useless men or useless people anymore. I think that's all I've got to say. I hope you kind of found yourself in my story, or you could relate to me in any way, shape or form. This is my experience. Obviously, I'm not going to cover everyone's daddy issue or daddy experience, but yeah, forgiveness, knowing that they did the best that they can with what they had at the time, that they didn't really have an example. Maybe their parents didn't treat them right, maybe their parents left them and abandoned them. If your father is absent, I think you will always kind of carry around that kind of hole in your heart a little bit. But I definitely believe that the wound can heal and get smaller, so you're not at a loss. You're blessed, you're here, you're alive, you have air to breathe. While you're taking your next breath, someone is taking their last. So be grateful for everything that you have and you have been given. Yes, I wasn't privileged to grow up in a stable household. Yes, I was not privileged to have a father who provided for me. Yes, I've had to be very much independent in my life, but it's all adding to my story and it's all part of my journey. No, I was not born into wealth. No, I was not born into privilege, but I'm gonna make sure, I'm gonna try my hardest that my children have what I did not have. And that just gives me hope. You know, I can't change the past, but I can make the future so much better. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Comment below what you thought of this video, and I'll see you in my next soul surgery video. Love you guys. Bye.